Welcome to the Bag Company 50, built by Croswait. Hey guys, my name is Jordy Croswait here on the Bag Company 50 built by Croswait. Here to give you a little bit of a better detailed tour and show you what we've built for Anthony and Steve. They wanted to have comfortable accommodations for 4 people, and they wanted to keep it simple, kind of like a high-end charter boat. A couple things that I want to show you around here. You know, this dinette is also a high-low, and it lowers down, and we have a cushion made for this to turn into almost a, I guess, double-sized type bed for somebody to sleep on. The other side here is also simple. This backrest is floating and it sets down, and then you have another comfortable sized bed. Also underneath this is tackle storage, which is really important as well. Another important feature for the salon was, you know, they have lots of camera equipment, drones, that sort of thing. So we've placed USB outlets throughout the whole salon area. And then this cabinet here is for things to not move around. You set your drones, cameras, whatnot, and they plug right into this station here so that, you know, a choppy day, it's not getting thrown all around. We've got storage underneath the dinette as well, a couple pull-out drawers, and then there's storage back here as well. To continue going with the theme of the boat, we did exposed carbon fiber countertops. You know, one, they look good, and plus, you know, the bottom line is the weight of things. So we're trying to make this thing as light as possible. As you guys know, we've got a trash can on this side, and then just for mirror and symmetry and all that kind of good stuff, we've got another one for chips or paper towels or whatever's needed. We've got a spot for a Keurig coffee maker, more storage. Again, there's no TV, no stereo in here. I mean, everybody's got iPads and, you know, all the other kind of listening devices and whatnot. So, and the main theme of this thing is to go catch a great big blue marlin. So nobody's gonna be sitting back watching TV anyhow. Microwave, more storage box underneath. We've got a refrigerator underneath each peninsula bar. The main panel is right here. It's a little further forward than what we normally would do, but considering the weight aspect of things, we were trying to make the wire runs as short as possible, so the batteries are directly underneath the panel. As you come downstairs, center line access, you've got bunks on either side, which are extremely comfortable. You've got close-out curtains to give you a little bit of privacy. The air conditioner on this thing is crazy. We've designed the system so that there's 2 24 BTU air conditioners, one on either side, and one side or the other will AC the entire boat. So if when AC goes down, they have a redundant system to be able to keep things cool. We have storage underneath on either side. Up by the head of the bed, there's big storage up underneath there. Port side, or starboard side's got the air conditioner, hot water heater. Port side is just basically for boat parts and whatever's needed to keep onto the boat. Also underneath the step, we've got the sonar system. We're able to get it out of the engine room, get it out of the, you know, the harsher environment. It's inside, it's controlled. Down here, we have just an open hanging locker for old skins and whatever they decide. Here we've got the area for where the rod storage is going to go. On this side, we have a day head, and then forward here we have a full head and shower, and the shower is huge. The Bad Company 50 engine room, you know, it's the heart of the boat. Accessibility is huge. You know, it's a 50-foot boat, so we were trying to keep things as easy to get to as possible. You know, there's nothing worse where you get into a situation where you've got to fix something real quick on the fly and you can't get to it, or you got to take 10 things apart to be able to get to it. You know, when we first started talking with Steve and Anthony, you know, Steve wanted to make sure that, you know, we have a breaker, a piece of equipment, intake and discharge. And that way, if they have to troubleshoot something on the fly, you know, they don't have to go through a bunch of systems checks and whatnot to be able to get to. We've got the manpower, the twin disc clutches, we've got the Northern Lights generator, we've got the ARG gyro, and the FCI water maker double pass system. We're able to locate each piece of equipment and still leave adequate amount of space to be able to service without having to turn into a contortionist. You know, it just kind of crazy how nice it turned out. I'm really proud of how the engine room came out. All right, guys, this is the cockpit of the Bad Company 50 built by Croswait. Just wanted to point out a few things for you. So this is our ice dump on this side. It is all one piece, and we've got a swoop on the back side. So, you know, when everybody's out here fishing, you need to ice something up, they just have to lift their feet. They don't have to actually get up off the cushion. Underneath the gunnel here, we've got our gaff lockers. Each side, you've got room for a 10-inch and a 12-inch flying gaff. You know, with this boat, it is a 50-footer, so space and trying to keep things streamlined and that sort of thing. We decided to build in the rod holders into the wing, which they have drains into the bottom of them and all that kind of stuff, and it really kind of made things kind of pop a little bit. You know, you don't see that every day. Next thing that we've got going on here is this is your engine room access. It ladder going down, easy accessibility. It's big enough for a man and a 5-gallon bucket of oil to be able to get in there. You know, that's important. You got to change the oil. Got to be able to get parts in and out of there. So engine access needed to be as big as possible, but you know, within reason. And this step is just basically a storage step. And then we've got our fuel fills. We've got our traditional vents out the side, but we also put a 2-inch vent in the step as well to help, you know, compensate for high pressure hose. On the starboard side here, we've got a drink box, simple, and then underneath the seat here is a refrigerated box for bait or food or, you know, whatever they may need. We don't have a freezer inside, it's just 2 refrigerators. And again, we're trying to keep things light. We're trying to give them all the equipment, all the creature comforts that, you know, we have on all these modern boats nowadays, but you know, trying to keep it to a minimum, but having a maximum of everything they could possibly need. We've got the oversized custom deck drains, carbon fiber. We actually built them out of G10, and we've put them on 2 8x8s, and we were stepping on them and they seemed like they had a little bit too much flexibility, so we decided to make them out of carbon, which, considering most of this boat is carbon, is probably not a bad thing. Back here we've got a fish box. Well, actually it's a live well, but right now it looks like a fish box. So we've got a lid, and then we also have a flange for the tuna tubes to key into, which you've seen in other videos. Trying to keep it clean and simple and extremely nice. Another big thing about this boat, you know, it's a 50-footer, and on a lot of 50-footers, your freeboard in the cockpit can be considerably lower. But considering, you know, they're out trying to catch a grander, we wanted to make sure, and they wanted to make sure, that their mate was safe whenever they started wrapping up on a nice fish. So we wanted to make sure that when he comes up to it, he's able to lock his knee up underneath the gunnel, which is important to be able to, you know, hold on and do what he's supposed to do. Not a lot of boats are like this. There are a lot of boats that, you know, are like this, but this one was built purposely for catching giant blue marlin, and we were trying to make sure that all the details were covered. All right, guys, we're at the Helm area of the Bad Company 50, built by Croswait. We've got a pair of 27-inch Garmin displays. Things are huge. We've got our generator indicator, high water alarm, you know, bilge pump indicator lights. We have the trim tabs right here, easy to reach, plenty of visibility. You know, the helm height is adequate. The glove box has our man displays, our clutch, twin disc quick shift display, bow thruster, pretty much everything you need. But when you're all done, it's nice and clean and simple. Both these Helm chairs would pop off You know, in order for the crane to come down with the box beam to pick this up, this hardtop's gonna have to be removable. One of the reasons we picked the Gemlux outriggers was because of how simple they are. They don't have the spreaders and that sort of thing that they have to deal with to be able to take the riggers off. We have a joint here, kind of like your upper station on an outboard. You know, it just comes together. You got 2 bolts that hold it in. We've got 8 bolts across the back, 8 bolts across the front. The curtains would have to come off, the riggers come off, the crane comes over. We take these 4 bolts on each side off, and then the 8 4.5 bolts, and the hardtop comes completely off. The antennas were put on top of the hardtop because of the hardtop being removable, and we've put a sump up in this port corner that has a Deutsch connection for every piece of equipment that is on the hardtop. So that's easy to get into, easy to disconnect, and you know, make the crew's life as easy as possible to be able to disassemble this thing. A little bit more stuff up here on this Helm. We have a nice backrest here that while you're fishing, you can have it this way, or if you're cruising, it keys out, spins around, and you got a nice forward facing seat for when you're cruising around to your fishing destination or wherever you're traveling to. He wanted to have a place for trash, so we've got a spot for a bucket trash can. You know, it's the little things that make things nicer. We tried to make this door as big as possible so that, you know, a person my size would be able to go in there and, you know, get in there and do whatever needs to be done. So up here on the bow, we you know, had length constrictions because of the ship. 50 foot was the maximum that could go onto the boat, and we didn't want to waste a couple feet of real estate of length of the boat for a pulpit. So we decided to build a built-in pulpit like you've seen on multiple boats nowadays. The biggest thing for us with having it built inside the boat was making sure they had adequate access to being able to work on the windlass or chain or something gets snagged up. You never know if it's you know, a rough situation, emergency situation. You want to be able to have maximum access so you can actually deploy the anchor safely. The tow rail is a gray faux instead of a teak faux, and I think that turned out really good. It's something that you don't see very often anymore is, you know, tow rail is kind of overlooked. You know, it's an accent point, but the old school Carolina boat builders, you know, I'll name a few, but you know, when that thing come around, it's a great big old fat piece of teak up there, and it's all meaty and pretty, and you know, just so we kind of did the same thing with ours, just a little bit of a tribute to where we came from, and we were trying to give a little, you know, kickback to the people before us that kind of helped us get to where we're at. I mean, you know, if we didn't have the old timers, we wouldn't be here. So it's pretty cool. We've got the exposed carbon fiber mask, again with the gray faux drip rail. We've got the black powder coated framing that really goes well with the carbon fiber Gemlux riggers. We've got a 6-foot open ray Garmin. We've got the bar light. And the cool thing about the bar light is this boat will be towed by the mothership from time to time. And you know, there'll be 2 people on the boat, but just say they're towing the boat at night and there's an emergency that happens and the high water alarm goes off. Well, we've wired the high water alarm into the spreader light in order to notify the mothership that's in front of it that it's having an issue. So if the high water alarm goes off, the bar light will start strobing towards the mothership to tell it that it's having a problem, which that's kind of one of them unseen features, but again, trying to keep things as clean and simple for them that would maybe give them a little peace of mind when they're having to do that type of thing. Throughout the boat, we put oversized cleats on it. You know, being a 100% travel boat, you never know what kind of situation it's going to be in, and having a cleat that's too small, I don't know if you ever tied up for a hurricane, but you know, you can only get so many ropes on something. So these are titanium pop-up cleats. They're big, but they're light as heck. That's what we're going for, is, you know, making sure that they have everything they need and not having to sacrifice something because of because of weight.